So first, just state who you are and I guess your role within the tribe.
Well, I'm Mark Quiet Hawk Gould. I'm the principal chief of the Lenni-Lenape Indians. I've been chief on and off for the last 40-some years. My job as chief is to make sure that my people are safe. And whatever I can get for them, I'll take my time and make sure it works.
So who are the Lenni-Lenape people and where are they descendants from?
Well, that's a major question because the Lenape that were left here, and a few left here, a lot stayed, but they weren't allowed to interact with other people. We had to rely on the Quakers because we weren't allowed to own property. The Quakers purchased property in our names. But then we were like the support group for all of the non-Indian people that were here. So we have communities in Ghoultown, we have communities in Ferreton, we have communities in Springtown, Muttontown Woods over on the other side of Alloway. We were outside of almost every thriving community. And we weren't servants. I don't think we ever believed in that. But we stayed to ourselves. Just like one of my grandmothers came from right down the street here. And how they survived is because they didn't have transportation, is they had to get rid of the clan system and they intermarried amongst themselves. Now, like I said, this is a Pierce down here. The Muttontown Woods was the Caesars. Actually, Joe Caesar was from Canada, Alberta, Canada. And he came here and he married into the Pierce clan. And that was another one. Alloway, right around the corner from where we're at right now, that was where, and I hate to say it like this, but the truth needs to be told. When the people came from Europe, they didn't have wives. It was men that came here. So they married our people. They married the women from our tribe. And then you didn't hear much about that marriage. And I guess to say it, well, our property down in Ferreton, when the lady who's the niece of the guy who sold us the property, she is a historian and she's a garrison. And I told her that from my knowledge of our people, I said, you need to go back and ask the eldest person in your family who your family really is. And she came back to me when we had one of our gatherings. She came back to me and she says, Mark, she said, I found out that my grandfather or my great-grandfather married a Lenape woman, had 2 sons, and when she died, his new wife erased all the history of our being in existence. So there is such a disparity about the information that can be gleaned because the Lenape part of it is gone. Now, my great-grandmother came from Alloway. Her name is Julia Noble. When Aunt Carrie Wright was doing our genealogy, she wanted to know who Julia Noble was because it's her grandmother too. And when she called over to Alloway to find out about her great-grandmother, they said that we erased her from our history because she married a Gould. And see, these are the things that aren't published, but one of the things that's happening is the fact that most of these communities stayed together. And if you wanted a wife, you went to one of the other Indian communities that had the same stripes that we did. Millsboro, the Nanticokes, and Cheswold, they were all those little towns outside of the thriving community. And they somehow was able to hold on all these years. So the communities are actually still there. Now, where we come from is called Dog Patch. It's outside of Gould Town. There was the stigma of Gould Town is the fact that what nationality are they? And I didn't know it until I was an older person that it was called triracial. We had no idea because the only thing that we were taught was the fact that our families were here, our families never left here, and if you married out, then you left. And that didn't mean anything as far as us as young people with our history because it didn't help us any. Now, my grandfather or great-grandfather, he moved over on Panphilly and East Avenue. He had a big farm that went all the way to Burlington Road. And our family in the clans, all the families built houses right next to each other down there on East Avenue. And that's how I knew how the family's together. Now, I told you about me rambling now. When we were coming up, we couldn't figure out why the men in the family were tradesmen and all the women were school teachers. Well, what they did, they directed, this is just my family, but I found out that other families did the same thing. They directed the women to go to college so that they could be teachers to bring up the next generation and make sure that we were safe. And I can tell you that because I was one of the orneriest ones. And my Aunt S used to, when I walked by her house, she used to make sure that she gave me an encyclopedia, she gave me whatever she thought I needed, and I just took it home and put it under the bed until it was time to take it back to her. But those rules are the rules that saved us. Actually, if you go down Gould Town Ferreton Road and you look at all the houses, almost everybody on that road is cousins. And they made sure that the next one survived so that we could, as a family, we could survive. Now, when I went to Gould Town Church, I had my ears pulled, I had my nose pinched, I had everything that you could think of because me, Bill, and P.C. Burrell were three of the baddest kids that went to the church. And everybody was allowed to correct you. So that's what saved us. Everybody gathered together to make sure that your kid was safe and going down the right direction. So I don't even know what your question was. What was your question?